So, Andrew, you saw this when it came out, didn't you, in 43? Why don't you talk about what it was like?
You know, everybody was very serious and fighting the war, and this little movie came out, very likable movie, very charming, but it was very much underrated back then.
Because it was in with all these war movies, a sort of patriotic home front.
And also, Lubitsch himself said at one point that people didn't appreciate it too much because the hero was not a very heroic character. You know, this was an age of heroes, of people positive and edifying.
And also working. Most people work.
And he was a loafer. he chased women, not very effectively. In fact, I think Raphaelson himself said that he wanted a greater lover, you know, a fantastic Casanova type.
Or something darker, I think, because they had a showing at the Museum of Modern Art, and I think it was a little bit of defensiveness, because this was the late 70s by now. One thing he said was that his wife loved the movie, and I think that was to sort of allay, because there was a lot of feminist agitation at this point, and women were questioning this sexual double standard and this wink-wink attitude towards male philandering.
Lubitsch was in a peculiar situation, because he had come into America in 1923, and he introduced sex to America, so to speak, a European style of cinema.
Trouble in Paradise and Design for Living.
Yeah. Then the code tightened up in about 1933, 34, and from then on, he had to work very, very subtly. This is something I think that Raphaelson himself did not appreciate. Lubitsch was working a tightrope act.
Yeah.
You get the feeling throughout the film that he never really followed through. He courted women, but the actual details were never spelled out.
Yeah, you don't think of the sexuality. You just think of the showgirls and the nightclubs and the spending of money.
The flowers, all the gallant gestures, and a little bit foolish.
Raphaelson said, and at first I agreed and then I didn't, which was that he felt they had somehow betrayed the Gene Tierney character by not having more about her in the end. And then I thought, well, but she hovers over the end.
Oh, absolutely. That scene, actually, which is basically a comic scene. He says, you know, I get lonely in the library, and he just pulls out by random this one book that got them together, the book How to Make Your Husband Happy.
How to Make Your Husband
Happy.
Oh,
and she suddenly comes alive,
Yeah.
the way he looks at that book. And then you have the joke at the end on the telephone.
It's for you, Poochie.
And this is typical of Lubitsch, that he always caps the scene with a comic thing. Otherwise, it would be almost unbearable.
It would, because there is this dark undercurrent. I mean, I think the whole thing of the Casanova is he's running away from time.
Yes.
And yet you have these markers constantly. You have the birthdays and the anniversaries.
Yes.
And it's.
I appreciate this at my age now, when he has a cabinet full of medicine and so forth. And there's all these jokes and this gathering of all his relatives, which is a ghastly picture.
Yeah. People just talk about the Lubitsch touch, but it's so much more than that. That scene when he brings that book out just brings that love for her, which is so different from anything he has or will ever have with anybody else. And it's this kind of ellipsis, and he trusts us to understand. And when her death is dealt with in an almost cursory way, it would seem. There's no mourning, there's no long reaction thing.
The form is very light, but the essence is very dark and very deep.
Yeah.
And this is something that has never been fully appreciated. This is a beautiful film.
Some people criticize the casting of Don Ameche as not having the kind of suavity of the Lubitchian rake, but the Van Cleves haven't had their money for that long.
No.
And the Spring Byington as the mother is very socially anxious, so it's not old money, it's not old polish, and so he's sort of first-generation rake. He's what Charles Coburn as the grandfather would have liked to have been, but couldn't quite bring it off.
Yeah, Charles Coburn was the one who made the money. He felt he lost something, and he sees it in his grandson.
Women are always outwitting him. I mean, even in the beginning, I mean, that nurse that takes him,
how darling the nurse who deserts him.
Darling at home, and then she gets out in the park, and her cop boyfriend comes along, and she starts yelling at him.
No, he always comes out being low man on the totem pole.
That's right.
And that's what's so charming about it. The idea of getting, a deeper actor, let's say someone like Herbert Marshall, who was the suave lover in Trouble in Paradise. it would be all wrong.
All wrong.
Because he's not a seducer.
No. He doesn't mind being rebuffed, and he tries to learn. I mean, when the little girl with the Beatles, she cons him out
outwits him. I mean, all the women he encounters, they're always in charge.
Yeah.
From that moment on, one thing was clear to me. If you want to win a girl, you have to have lots of Beatles.
You sort of are about to feel sorry for the Gene Tierney character because he has betrayed her over and over again, and so finally she's fed up and runs away. There's a wonderful scene where Albert, the cousin and suitor,
played beautifully by Allyn Joslyn.
Allyn Joslyn's fantastic. And she says, I just don't want people to think I'm the victim of 10 years of misery. It wasn't like that at all. There were moments that few women experience in their marriage. Yeah. And he says, marriage is not supposed to be a lot of thrills. It's supposed to be two right-thinking people, well-adjusted and all that. Yeah. And she says, I'm afraid you're right, Albert.
Well, he defines himself as a suit. It's not flashy, but it wears well.
And she agrees.
And she says, you've summed yourself up beautifully.
And he's so pleased.
Yeah, and she's very ironic.
Yeah.
And the thing is, she reads some lines. Gene Tierney was not highly regarded as an actress back then, although she was regarded as very beautiful, because a year later she made Laura, which is a great film. But there are lines, very complicated lines, like when she's describing life at home with the Strables, with the wonderful actors, Marjorie Main and Eugene Pallette, who are caricatured, but who are also very human. The dialogue is very literate and articulate, and through tears, she delivers all the lines so that you can hear them.
And when my father said yes, my mother said no. But Albert came at one of those rare moments.
Well, the combination of emotions you get there, because you get her love for her parents, and she keeps reassuring him that she loves him, but she can't wait to get away.
Yeah,
you know?
She has to get away from Kansas.
Well, that's what I meant when I talked about when Albert is telling her that's not what marriage is supposed to be about. She knows what she's doing. She chose this marriage, and I think one of the most poignant moments is when she thinks he's finally given it all up. He's got a little paunch. He's gone to this showgirl who turns out is seeing his son trying to buy her off. And she said, now you're really mine. But, of course, he always has been in some deep sense, I think.
But you don't feel that there's any great sensual hunger in him, that he's hunger for sex.
He's not what we would now call a sex addict.
No.
You know, that's not his syndrome.
Well, one has to remember that the censorship was airtight in those days. Husbands could not sleep in the same bed with their wives. And if a husband sat on the bed, he had to have one foot on the floor. Nothing could be explicit.
Yeah.
I mean, and so looking at it today, it seems so genteel. Yeah. But even so, there were people who felt that this was a little frivolous and irresponsible.
Yeah.
Too pleasure-loving.
I mean, I think
too anti-puritanical.
The production code didn't come out of nowhere.
No.
It represented the thinking of most people in this country who were uneasy with it. It's one of the reasons I think Trouble in Paradise has never gotten the attention it deserves, because it is really about sensuality and morality.
Well, this is just a little bit after the period also where actresses, very sensual actresses like Garbo and Dietrich, were deemed box office poison because the Americans refused the Lubitsch kind of movie.
The Ameche character is a strange combination of things because he can be bumbling, but at other times he's incredibly eloquent. I mean, I think one of the most beautiful moments is when he tells her, he's gone in after her in the bookstore and pretends to be a salesman for this book. And he said, I took one look at you and I followed you into the store. If you'd gone into a restaurant, I would have become a waiter. Yeah. If you'd gone into a burning building, I would have become a fireman. And he goes on like that. It's just beautiful.
He has all the language of courtship.
That's right. So, and he really loves pretty women.
Yeah, and in fact, in terms of feminist terms,
is ageism and uglyism. He doesn't want any older women or any.
He doesn't like older women.
He hates that nurse in the end who's taking care of him.
The nurse who's sort of unattractive.
Oh, go away, and leave me alone.
And so you have this moment where she's leaving and the new one's coming in. In the mirror, you see the transition.
And then walks into the room, and the Merry Widow Waltz comes in.
And now he can
it's these ellipses, these moments behind closed doors, that is the essence of the Lubitsch style, and it's beautifully done here. Now, that raises another question that lately I've been concerned about. There are several movies now with out-and-out atheists who don't believe in the afterlife and who say it on the screen. And it makes me a little uneasy. I think of my mother and father, and brother who died, and I want to see them again, and I want to keep them alive. And I think that's what Heaven Can Wait is all about. It's all about not wanting to lose the people you love.
I mean, after all, it does begin with death, so it is not just one sunlit, cheerful comedy.
And it begins with jokes about death.
Jokes about death,
You know, he says, people were gathered around the bed saying nice things about me, and then I knew I was dead.
And there's that moment when he runs into this woman that he's known as a child. And
Florence Bates, the great
Florence Bates,
who was that great actress in Rebecca.
Yeah, he remembers her legs, and she starts showing them, and Laird Cregar pulls the trap door and sends her to hell, which is a little unfair, I think.
Yeah, the movie just is consistent with Hollywood. Hollywood, good looks, good people.
That's right.
Bad looks.
Well, I mean, I think Lubitsch is all about metaphor in a way, and in fact, I think that's something we have to live with, that looks is a metaphor for a good person.
That's the convention we buy with our stars.
Yeah.
There are very attractive women who are femme fatales, who are evil, and so on. But stars, people who look good, cannot be bad inside.
Yeah.
And of course, it's a myth.
Well, another thing about the film, it's much more about family than earlier Lubitsch movies. The earlier Lubitsch movies have been about single people and this sort of anarchic relationships like Designed for Living and The Triangle. And here, you really get a sense of the generations.
Also, the repetitions of things.
Yeah.
His mother kept saying, "Where does he get it from?"
Yeah.
And he kept saying that about his son, who was also a bit of a scamp.
Yeah.
And the grandfather, you feel, was a bit of a scamp.
Yeah.
You know, that there is a continuity of behavior, but that eventually all these scamps, these juvenile delinquents, these would-be Casanovas, not real Casanovas, settle down.
Yeah, and you feel a little sad about that, actually.
Yeah, you feel, a diminution. There is a sense of settling down that Americans believe in, or theoretically.
People think that Hollywood always has just completely idealized portraits of marriage, but here you get this grotesque and charming marriage of the Strables, where they sit at 20 yards apart and they have this wonderful black butler that goes back and forth delivering their messages to each other.
Yeah, when Raphaelson said that was based on a comedian who used to have a vaudeville routine where he would walk very slowly from one side of the stage to the other, and say something entirely different and then walk right back, But you feel a very nice portrait of this man. It's not condescending at all. It's not racist
of the servant,
no. It keeps that marriage
together. He's the mainstay.
Together.
It is a hierarchical world, too.
Yeah.
I mean, they really are servants, and this is another thing that makes Americans uncomfortable, because it is about class and subtleties of class.
Well, it's a time when middle-class people could afford servants.
Yeah. Let's talk about the look of the film. This was his first color film, and he had just moved from Paramount to Fox.
Yeah. Fox, the sets were much more solid. They had volume where...
Paramount was more kind of diaphanous and curvy.
Diaphanous and large rooms. In fact, Lubitsch was famous for indicating wealth by the huge amount of space that people have. Whereas here, you feel people are cluttered, and the furniture keeps changing.
That's how you know that you're going through the decades.
He's talking French, nothing but French.
French?
Oh, Randall.
If you think about it too much, if you think about movies too much, you ask yourself, for one thing, these people never go anywhere. They never travel.
Yeah.
You don't feel that they've ever been to Europe or done this.
Well, they go to soirees.
They're always going to parties, always in the same house. So it's a very stylized entertainment.
Yeah.
And time and space are very controlled.
Yeah. You get the one generation is making all the money.
Yeah.
Then you get the next generation sort of consolidating it. And then the Strables represent this crass advertising that's coming in. And the yokel versus the New York sort of sophistication.
Right.
But you don't get world events at all.
Oh, no history, no sense of it. You know you're beginning at 1887 or thereabouts. But you don't go into World War I. And there were a lot of movies at that time where, World War I, the Depression.
I think Lubitsch refuses to give himself importance that way.
No.
He insists on the lightness. And this is what I think fool people, where people underrate him. They don't realize the serious undercurrents.
Well, people underrate comedy.
Yeah.
They cannot, and especially a certain type of comedy that's very subtle.
Oh, that has mixed
quiet.
tones in it. Because on the one hand, you've got this very buoyant, thing that never gets heavy. On the other hand, you've got these birthdays year after year after year, and so it begins and ends with death.
And you don't have explosions of slapstick. You know,
Yeah,
there is
it's
some
so
physical
subtle.
comedy, but it's very quiet.
Yeah, like Lubitsch's whole theme is really pleasure and the penalties of it.
Right.
There is conflict.
There is conflict.
And there is suffering. I mean, the wife does suffer from his philandering, but it's not a heavy breathing kind of suffering.
No, it's all subsumed in the comedy.
Yeah.
But it's that strange mixture that has always been underrated, that people think is so easy, so slight, so unimportant. And yet there are very few, quote, serious films that stand up to Heaven Can Wait.
This is his first color film, and it sort of starts out that, well, of course, hell is red, saturated red colors, and then it gradually lightens up.
It
as you get
lightens up, and the dominant color for Gene Tierney is sort of a bluish color, which is interesting because it's not sensual.
No.
It's cool, but it's very spiritual.
Yeah, and her love is what sort of redeems him or gives him kind of solidity.
Yes, and she really knows more about life than he does.
Yeah.
She has much more practical knowledge.
Now, I think I'd better tell you.
I know. You don't love me anymore.
Now, darling, don't try to be funny.
She knows that he's bought off the showgirl for his son.
No, she's way ahead of him.
And she knew about it, and she wasn't excited about it. She knew it was a phase, a stage.
But she restrains herself from sort of showing what she knows, which is a hard thing to do, I think, for a woman.
It's also something that people just don't believe so much anymore.
Yeah. This sense of discretion and tact within a marriage.
Yeah.
That's something that went out the window. We've got to say what our feelings are. We've got to get it out now, our anger and all of that. There's so much that's kept under the surface for the good of the marriage.
Don't ask me.
I didn't ask you. I merely made a statement. Go on, Jack. But
The son, it's interesting, the earlier comedies, they're never children. I mean, the idea of procreation never occurs to anybody.
No.
And even here, the son is really kind of an afterthought. I mean, he's really a foil for the father.
Yeah, it's a succession, and only one son is needed.
Yeah,
you don't need any more children. Also, the idea of Gene Tierney having more than one child. She's there to be this ideal wife. She's not a mother.
Although it's an absolutely wonderful scene, but it's in a sense more about Ameche than about the child when he's come to bring her home.
Yeah.
And the way he really wins her over is by describing the son who's playing off one
With his little girls.
The little girls, and she starts sort of smiling indulgent, and she's won over by that, as she had originally been won over by him.
And then she looks at him, and the grown-up little boy.
Yeah. He's a child,
always.
always.
He remains a child.
He remains a child, and everyone allows him to be a child.
And this is, 43 was a much more serious time.
Men had to be grown-ups.
All the male stars, they were middle age. They were fully developed. They came into the world,
to save the world
with suits and wearing hats and taking their place in the world.
And Don Ameche is sort of shocked when he goes to see his son's girlfriend that she sees him as old. I mean, it's sort of.
He's not self-reflective.
No,
he doesn't look in the mirror. He's completely irresponsible. And that's why, this is a period of probably the most serious period in American history.
Here, this apparently frivolous.
Here's this frivolous. But the irony is, of course, the truth is that this was actually going on. Yeah. There were all kinds of people like the Van Cleefs.
They were.
They weren't worried about all the unemployed and all the people who were suffering and hungry.
During the Depression, you had people who really wanted to see, say, the screwball comedies, which were also frivolous by these terms.
Francois Truffaut one time said, a long time ago, when he was growing up, he went to work in a factory, and when he got out of work, he didn't want to go to a movie about people working in a factory,
And even the screwball comedies really end with a conventional view of marriage. Yeah, and which this doesn't. It's a very unconventional marriage, which
very unconventional
somehow suited both people in it, and that's sort of hard for people to accept.
It is. It's Lubitsch. Yeah, and he's unique, and somehow people tolerated him, but they didn't really understand it.
They just don't see the somber undercurrent of this.
No. Because he does it through cutting, through the intercutting of ironic expressions and so forth. He creates comedy.
Well, you know what he does all the time is using staircases. He has people running up and down staircases, but doors. Not only does he use the doors for entrance and exit lines, I mean, there's always some sort of fill-up at the end, but also who's in and who's out at any given moment, or the people that are excluded or the people that are included. Like that scene where Don Ameche has escaped Mrs. Cooper, and then she comes in because she's escaped. So suddenly you have one room where one thing is going on and one where another is going on. And
the spaces are very isolated. Lubitsch himself one time said that he used to make doors with the handle of the door a little higher than normal.
Oh, really?
And that was so that when a person came, he had to think. People just don't do it casually.
Yeah.
People don't do anything casually.
No.
Everything is very expressive.
And yet you don't sort of stop and think about it while you're watching.
And he tries never to repeat, any effect.
Yeah.
And he cuts it very sharply, just so that it doesn't linger.
Well, that's the thing after she dies. That's a brilliantly done thing when you think about it. It's kind of startling because you keep expecting some more reaction or some sort of ceremonial aftermath.
Both deaths, both his and hers, are done to music. They're in the middle of music. They're in the middle of what should be the most joyous thing.
Yeah.
It's the Merry Widow Waltz is this whole idea of death as
in the midst of
merriment.
Yeah.
And that is the key, I think, to the Lubitsch style.
Yeah.
The Lubitsch touch. Incidentally, Frank Nugent, the critic for the New York Times in the mid-30s, said that most people don't realize that films are directed. But he says when they took a poll, and the out-and-out winner of the poll was Lubitsch.
Really?
Everybody knew Lubitsch's
They were
name.
aware.
Because the Lubitsch touch was very well publicized in the comedies and the musicals. He specialized in musicals when the sound era came.
Well, the comedies are almost like musicals in some sense. They have that tempo, and as you say, the great scenes that occur during the music.
It's so spare, so economical, and it's very difficult for audiences to appreciate how much effort, how much sweat goes in to create that lightness.
That lightness.
And yet, by the end, you feel that you felt a life go through.
Oh, yes.
And that is a powerful thing.
Of course, Lubitsch was very influential in the directors who were in his own time and who immediately followed him, like Billy Wilder. And I'm sure directors are hip to him today, but I think audiences in Hollywood have gone so far in the other direction.
To talk about influence, I mean, people look at this, but you can't imitate it. Well, everything has changed so much. Lubitsch was a Hollywood director. I mean, he worked in a studio. He had all things under his control. Today, shooting is so much on location. Movies are so different.
And if there's anything about family, it's about dysfunctional family. Nobody can believe in a traditional family in any way. I mean, we're just so self-conscious about class at all. You can't have something like Spanglish where you have the class conflict and the servant, and it's all the misery of the white upper middle class.
The guilt
and misery.
Now this is a movie 71 years ago.
Yeah.
We're sitting here talking about it because it's irreplaceable. It's inimitable. It can't be done anymore.
Yeah.
And there are no directors like Lubitsch.
When people see these movies, though, they're enchanted by them because it does have this grace and wit that's just so absent from current filmmaking. I mean, it has both great comedy and it has a dark lining that should speak to audiences today.
It deals with life and death.
Yeah. Well, also, I think I saw this first in the 70s, and I think I kind of resented his womanizing figure, and now I see it in a different, sort of more, like all the women in the film, I'm more indulgent to him than I may have been earlier.
Yeah. I think this is one of his most graceful, most beautiful films, particularly because it's so unusual. It's so not in his usual vein.
It doesn't fit into any genre quite. It's a really sui generis, and that's another reason it has made it, I think, hard going. But I think it pays off in spades.
It's a hidden masterpiece.
It is.
It's something that grabs you. I wasn't as overwhelmed by it
the first time
when I was 15
yeah.
as I am now.
I think as you get older, you appreciate it more too.
Older. I think Lubitsch ages well.
Yeah, he ages well.
Like Albert.